Hello everybody, welcome back to our video lecture series on AutoCAD. The last two sessions we had learned how we can create block and how we can insert block into our drawing and how attributes can be linked with blocks and how it can be extracted. Okay, so today we'll be discussing, or in this session we will be discussing about selection of objects or selection of entities. If you recall the part 7 of this series where we started the modify comments, we had discussed some basic selection process, how to pick an individual object, and we have also learned that by default in AutoCAD the selection is additive mode or add mode. So after selecting one object, if you go and click on the other one, that also will be added to the selection base. And if you want to remove an object from our selection base, then we need to hold shift and then go and select or click on the object. Also, we have seen an important concept here, that is window and crossing. If you are selecting the object by a window, then all the objects which is completely inside the window only will be selected, whereas if you are selecting the objects by a crossing window, then the objects which are completely or partially inside the window will be selected. And hope you remember, to have a window we should start from the left side, or the first point of the rectangle should be left side and the second point should be on the right hand side. Similarly, for crossing it should be vice versa, that is we should start from right side and end in the left side. This is what we have discussed in part 7 of the series. And also when I discussed those details with you, I've asked you to look into the command line, and wherein you would have seen other options also, right? Today we are going to see the various selection options, because in a small drawing it is easy for you to select by using the methods which we already discussed. But if your drawing has got too many entities or too many objects in that one, then basically it will be difficult for you to select the required one. And especially when we have more objects scattered in your drawing, then there should be some appropriate way to select the objects which we want. Okay, so let us move to AutoCAD environment, and we'll see. Before that, I'll just complete one. So this today we'll be seeing this selection. Okay, fine. So I have some figures in this drawing, and what we have discussed earlier is, for selecting a single object you can go and click on that object, or if you want to select a group of objects, then you can click at one point, then move your mouse, then click at the other point, right? I'm not holding the mouse pressed, right? I'm just clicking at one point. I'll repeat it. Click at one point, move and select. This is window. All the objects inside the window is selected. And this, which I started from the right and moved to the left, this is crossing. In crossing, all the objects which is completely or partially inside the window will be selected. Okay, now when you start a selection process, suppose I'll start a selection process here, right? See, here you can see 3 other options also. Like, by default it will be asking for the next corner, as to know whether it is a window or a crossing, right? Apart from that, we have 3 other options here. There is fence, polygon, fence, W polygon and C polygon. The fence means, see, if I select the fence option, so the instead of that rectangle I will be having a line, right? So I can pick different points like this, and all the objects which is crossed by this line will be selected. It is selected this one because this is a polyline. This bigger one is a polyline, and I'll show it from again. Just I'm starting from here. Then I'm selecting this option fence. So I'm passing this element. Then I'm not going to select this one. Then this circle, right? Then this line segment. Then coming back this rectangle. Okay, that's all what I want. So if I press enter, you can see only those elements are selected. So if you want to select something in a particular path or something like that, and then you can use this fence option, right? So that is about fence. And the other two options are W polygon and C polygon. This W stands for window and C stands for crossing, right? We already seen what window and crossing is. So instead of rectangle, if you want polygon, then you can use this option, right? So window polygon means, now you can see that we'll be able to create a polygon rather than window, and if it is a polygon rather than a rectangle, right? And if it is a window polygon or W polygon, then all the entities which is completely inside this will be selected. Now you can see this and this was not selected because it was not completely inside. On the other way, so if you have selected crossing polygon, then all the entities which are completely or partially inside, even you can see here these two are partially inside this polygon, that also will be selected, right? You can see. So this is another two options. Like in fact we had three options, that is fence, crossing polygon and window polygon. Something similar to what we have learned, and the fence is the only new thing what we are seeing here. Okay, so these are some of the additional selection options. Okay, now we'll see one more thing. And okay, before going to that, and another option is, suppose whenever I click anywhere on the drawing area, AutoCAD understands that we are going to select something, so we'll get these options. Alternatively, you can type select also. There is a command called select, and if you type select, then also you will get the same select objects prompt here, so that I can select it any of the way which I want, but you will not be getting the other window W polygon and C polygon option here, but normal selection options will be there. Okay, so that is about the basic selection. Now we have another option. See, for window and crossing, what we have done is we clicked at one point, then release the mouse, right? Release the mouse, and we drag the mouse and clicked at some other point, right? This is what we are doing for window and crossing. So instead of that, if you are clicking and dragging your mouse, then instead of getting a rectangle, you will be getting something called a lasso, right? And this lasso also has got different options, right? I'll show it again. I'll move it to this side. So now just I'm clicking and dragging. Now you can see it is coming as lasso, and here it is written as crossing lasso, and also the color you can see it is green. So when I say it is crossing lasso, that means the entities which is completely inside the lasso, or which is completely or partially inside the lasso, will be selected, right? For example, if I release that one, you can see that all the objects which is completely or partially inside that one was selected, right? And when you have this lasso, you can select different options by or you can cycle through different options by using this space bar. See, at present this is a window lasso, right? Window lasso means whichever objects which is completely inside my lasso will be selected. If I click here, see, only those objects which are completely inside my lasso was selected, right? So again, I'll have another option. So now this is window option. Suppose if you want, instead of this, if you want a crossing lasso or a fence, then you can just press this space bar. See, now when I press this space bar, it has been moved, changed to fence. You can see here in the comment line, it is fence. Now it will be acting as a fence, which we have seen earlier. Again, if I press space bar, it has become crossing lasso. Again, if I press, it has become window lasso. Again, if I press space bar, it will become fence. So you can cycle through these three different options, that is window lasso, crossing lasso, and fence. And depending upon the type you want, you can stop there and go and select the object. Right now it was fence, so all the objects which has been crossed by the fence was selected. So these were the options which we had for selection. And some cases you will have some complicated drawing like this, wherein we will be having too many objects, and it will be extremely difficult for you to pick one object. So see, suppose if I go and click here, or else I can show you another thing. So I'm just drawing a line from here. I'm drawing a line from here, and from this endpoint again I'm drawing one line. Okay, so if you see here, I have a small line, and here I have a big line. And suppose if I go and click here, I may be selecting the bigger line or smaller line. I am not sure which one I'll be going to select. Like at present, like this highlighted, the only two we are having, so it's not a big task. Like if you want a bigger line, you can come and select from here. If you want a smaller line, you can come and select here, or you can use this window option here. That is there. But in certain cases, we may have to cycle through, or we may have to understand which one I am going to select. Right? For that one, see, suppose if I come here and click here, see here there are 3 or 4 different items, right? So which one you want, you cannot very clearly explain that to you. And in that particular case, we have an option which is called in which we can cycle through the selection, right? So for that you have a shortcut key. I mean, we have other options also, which I'll explain later. First I'll see the settings. So if you press Ctrl and W, you can see the selection cycling on, right? It is, if you, the shortcut key again is Ctrl plus W, that is press Ctrl then press W, then this selection cycle will be on. Now when you come here, you can see a two small white boxes there right now, which mentions that there are, more than one object near to my cursor. And if you click there, when you see that, if you click there, all the objects which is near to that will be displayed here. So you can see line, 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 and circle. And if you want a particular object, you can go and click that one, so that object will be selected. So by using this option, you can have this selection cycling. So again, I'll repeat, the option is Ctrl W. Alternatively, if you see the settings here, see here we have seen this drafting settings, and if you see the drafting settings, in the last tab you have something called selection cycling. Here if you come and make this on, it is having the same effect. See, this is now made on because I used Ctrl W here. Again, if you use Ctrl W, this will be made off. Okay, so that is another option. Or this is stored in a system variable. I think I had discussed about system variable earlier in the regular classes. Hope you remember system variable. Else we'll discuss that later. And if you didn't understand what the system variable is, maybe you can put a comment, so that we'll have a small session on system variable. That is not a, and in fact you can think that for every option or every comment, we'll have AutoCAD stores in with respect to certain variable. You have seen earlier dim text and all those things, so that can be mentioned as a system variable. So here we have this selection cycling system variable. I can see that selection cycling, you can see here selection cycling system variable. Sorry. And this selection cycling system variable, if it is 2, it is equivalent to pressing Ctrl W or making it on, right? It can take values from -2 or 0, 1, and 2. I'm not going to, I'm not explaining all those things, but at present you can understand, if it is -2, this will be off, or if it is 2, it will be on. Okay, so selection cycling can be made on either by pressing Ctrl W or using that drafting settings options, or you can change the system variable, that is selection cycling. Its value can be changed to 2. So these are some important aspects related to selection, and you can use any of these technique what I have explained right now for selecting the entities, for editing or modifying or doing any of these options. So by using these techniques, you can select the objects what you want very easily. So that's all about selection. Hope you understood the different processes by how we can select. I remember, I mean, in one of the exams, like, I mean, there was a question like, I mean, what are the different ways in which we can select objects in not a candidate, it was an essay question or something like that. So please try to understand all the selection procedure. So it may be useful in the theory portion also. Okay. Again, thanks for watching. Stay safe. We'll meet in the next session, wherein we will be seeing the viewing comments. We already know what zoom and pan is, but I just want to explain a couple of other options as far as zoom is concerned. For pan, we don't have too many options. Okay, then. Thank you. Bye. Take care.